Austria, 1946. The war was over, but peace felt like a lie. Vienna, once the jewel of Europe, now a city carved into four pieces. American, British, French, and Soviet. Each sector, a world unto itself. The streets still smelled of smoke. Rubble lined the avenues, and in the shadows, suspicion grew. This is the story of a single day. A day when allies became enemies, when trust turned to betrayal. It began before dawn. February 14th, Valentine's Day, ironically. The Americans called it Operation Handshake. The Soviets had no name for it because they didn't know it was coming. In the American sector, Captain James Forrester stood in a cold briefing room, 32 years old, Boston accent still thick despite 3 years overseas. He'd fought from Normandy to Berlin and thought he'd seen the worst of humanity. He was wrong. His commanding officer, Colonel Dawson, spread a map across the table. Red circles marked 3 locations in the Soviet sector. These warehouses, Dawson said, tapping the map. Intelligence says the Soviets are stockpiling weapons, not just rifles, artillery, possibly worse. Forrester leaned closer. We have permission to cross into their sector? Dawson's jaw tightened. We have an understanding. The Soviets agreed to a joint inspection. They think we're coming at noon. But we're not. We're going at 0600 before they sanitize the sites. Forrester felt something cold settle in his stomach. Sir, that's a violation of trust? Dawson cut him off. They violated trust when they started rearming behind our backs. We won the war together, Captain. We're not about to lose the peace. Across the city, in the Soviet sector, another conversation was happening. Major Dmitry Volkov stood at attention in a building that once housed Habsburg nobility. Now it was Soviet headquarters. The chandeliers were gone, sold or stolen. Only bare bulbs remained. His superior, General Kuznetsov, was a man carved from Siberian ice. 2 wars, a face full of scars, eyes that never seemed to blink. The Americans are coming today, Kuznetsov said, for the inspection. Yes, Comrade General, at noon. Kuznetsov smiled. It wasn't warm. Do you trust them, Major? Volkov hesitated. He'd fought alongside Americans at the Elbe River, shared cigarettes, laughed at bad jokes across the language barrier. But that was then. I trust that they want what we want, stability. Wrong. Kuznetsov's voice was sharp. They want control, and they will take it unless we show strength. He slid a folder across the desk. Volkov opened it. Photographs. American soldiers, moving through the streets, taking notes, watching. They've been mapping our sector for months, Kuznetsov said, counting troops, noting weak points. Today's inspection, it's reconnaissance. What are your orders, sir? Show them nothing. If they push, push back. Volkov nodded slowly. He'd survived Stalingrad by following orders, even the ones that felt wrong. At 0545, Captain Forrester's convoy rolled out. 6 jeeps, 40 men, helmets on, rifles loaded but safeties engaged. They crossed from the American sector into Soviet territory at a checkpoint called Grenztor. The Soviet guard on duty was half asleep. He saw the American vehicles, checked his watch, frowned, but the paperwork was in order, stamped and signed. He waved them through. Forrester felt his heartbeat in his throat. The streets were empty. Viennese citizens knew better than to be out before dawn. The buildings watched them with dark, broken windows, ghosts of a city that once danced to Strauss waltzes. They reached the first warehouse at 0600 exactly. It was a massive structure near the Danube Canal, red brick, iron doors, no guards outside, which immediately felt wrong. Spread out, Forrester ordered. Perimeter secure, entry team with me. They approached the doors, unlocked, also wrong. Forrester pushed inside and froze. The warehouse was empty. Not just empty, cleaned. The floor had been swept, recent. He could still smell the dust in the air. Sir, one of his sergeants called. Look at this! Scuff marks, lots of them. Heavy crates had been dragged across the concrete. Recently, very recently. They knew, Forrester whispered.
What do we do, Captain?
Before he could answer, headlights flooded the warehouse entrance. Soviet trucks, a dozen of them, and behind them, soldiers, rifles raised. Major Volkov stepped out of the lead vehicle. He walked slowly, deliberately, his breath misted in the cold air. Captain Forrester, he called out. His English was good, accented but clear. You are early. Forrester stepped forward, hands visible, non-threatening. Major Volkov, we're here for the inspection. The inspection is at noon. Plans changed. Volkov smiled thinly. Yes, they did. For a long moment, neither man moved. 40 American soldiers, maybe 80 Soviets, all armed, all tense. This could go very bad, very fast. We have authorization, Forrester said, signed by your General Kuznetsov. Authorization? For noon. Not now. Not without notice. Volkov took another step closer. You come into our sector before dawn, like thieves. We're not thieves, we're allies. Are we? Volkov's voice was quiet, dangerous. Then why do you sneak? Why do you spy? Why do you treat us like enemies? Forrester felt his jaw clench. The same reason you emptied this warehouse overnight, because neither of us trusts the other anymore. Silence. Then Volkov nodded slowly. Yes. Finally, honesty. He turned to his soldiers, barked an order in Russian. They lowered their rifles, slightly, still ready, still watching. You may inspect, Volkov said, but we stay, we watch, and you find nothing because there is nothing to find. Forrester knew it was a lie, but he also knew pushing further meant blood. Understood. For the next hour, American soldiers searched the empty warehouse. They found nothing. No weapons, no ammunition, only dust and echoes. At the second location, the same. Empty. Cleaned. The third warehouse was different. It was smaller, tucked into a narrow street in the Favorite district, and when they arrived, it wasn't empty. Soviet soldiers were inside, loading crates onto trucks, working fast, too fast. They stopped when the Americans appeared. Forrester's gut twisted. This was it, the proof they needed, but also the spark that could ignite everything. Stop loading, he called out. By order of the Allied Control Council, we're inspecting those crates. A Soviet lieutenant stepped forward, young, maybe 25, eyes hard. You have no authority here. I have every authority. This is a joint occupation. This is our sector. Forrester turned to Volkov. Major, we both know what's in those crates. Let's just... You know nothing, Volkov interrupted. His voice was steel. Those are medical supplies, food, for our soldiers. Then you won't mind if we look. I mind that you accuse us. I mind that you violate our trust. Your trust? Forrester's temper flared. You moved everything before we could arrive. You're hiding something. And you are looking for war. The words hung in the cold air. Around them, soldiers on both sides gripped their weapons tighter, fingers near triggers, hearts pounding. One wrong word, one wrong move. Forrester took a breath, forced himself to think. He'd been trained for combat, not diplomacy, but right now, diplomacy was the only weapon that mattered. Major Volkov, he said quietly, we both have orders that could get a lot of good men killed today, so let's make a deal. Volkov's eyes narrowed. What deal? Open one crate, just one. If it's medical supplies, we leave, no questions, no report. And if it's not? Then we talk, figure this out, together. Volkov stared at him, calculating, weighing options. Finally, he nodded. He walked to the nearest truck, pulled out a crowbar, wedged it under the lid of a crate, and pried it open. Inside, bandages, morphine, sulfa powder, medical supplies. Forrester felt his certainty crack. Volkov reached deeper, pulled out a box of surgical tools, held it up. Satisfied? But Forrester's sergeant was already moving to another crate. Sir, this one. He pointed. The crate was marked differently, different stenciling, different weight distribution. Volkov's face hardened. No, that one is not. But the sergeant had already opened it. Inside, gleaming and deadly, Soviet PPSH submachine guns, dozens of them, and beneath, ammunition boxes. Silence. The kind of silence that comes before an explosion. Forrester looked at Volkov. Volkov looked back, and in that moment, both men knew. The alliance was over.